Hello, everyone, and welcome back to God of War. Oh, random loading screen because I was a little bit too quickly.
Speak of the devil, wasn't I just talking about that?
I mean, off cam, sure.
What do you mean?
I was talking about how Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy 15 always stutter at loading points, like right before we started this playthrough. So,
See, I would get 15 with like older rigs, but not 7.
Remake integrates PC port is just kind of shoddy, to be honest. It doesn't like its own frame rate settings, and it doesn't like DirectX 12.
It doesn't like its own frame rate settings.
It doesn't like DirectX 12 either, and it's set by default to DirectX 12, so you have to manually put in a launch option to set it to DirectX 11. But like, it even like has frame rate jitters in the FMVs, which is just magical to me. Like, how do you screw up a video file?
Different codec.
Well, I suppose, but like...
Like, what if it runs off MKV and the game is like, no,
No
use handbrake.
No game designer with an ounce of brain matter in their head would ever run their video files off of MK fucking V.
A big choice, lad.
But
you can either serve yourself or put your godhood in the service of others.
I just don't understand Square's problem with ports, to be honest. It's like every so often, well, yeah, but like every so often they do some good work with ports, but like at the same time, they also have some really goddamn lazy ones. I assume they...
But do they outsource them to other folks, or do they handle them directly?
I assume they do a bit of both. Like, the Final Fantasy 15 Windows Edition is generally a good port. Generally. Like, it has a few wibbly-wobbly elements. Like, there's a setting in Windows Defender, of all things, that messes with the game, so you have to go and manually punch in a bunch of exceptions.
Windows Defender?
Yes.
What, is it like a firewall?
It has there's some stuff where the computer works with programs that are running to make sure that no exploits are going, and you have to turn those off for Final Fantasy 15 because it slows the game down. There's a video on YouTube about like which settings to turn off, but you have to punch in manual exceptions for the program because if you just turn them off for Windows, it causes problems. So I love PC gaming. It's awesome and convenient and always superior to consoles in every way. Said no one ever. Well, no, actually said a lot of people for some reason.
PC Master Race.
Is that still a thing in 2022?
Yes, it actually is.
I don't know. Okay, you know what? Maybe, because like, you go on Twitter and every fucking Xbox or PlayStation post is literally the same tribalism, Xbox, PS4 better, that sort of shit.
You could argue that PS5 and Xbox Series consoles are better than PC at the moment, but like no one has those yet. So
I have a PS5.
Lucky you. I don't.
Yeah, well, I don't. Your argument's invalid.
That doesn't invalidate the fact that they're out.
They're out, but they're just not available. Like, geez, you'd think the shortage would have eased up at least a little bit by now, but
It's unfortunately due to crypto scammers buying up all the processors.
Is that the Elden Ring?
As timing. No, there's a lot of rings. It's the Elden Rings.
I wanted onion rings. You're laughing, but I already blew my money.
Meanwhile, we also get stuff like the Pixel remaster ports, which are good, but very strange in terms of decision.
They're solid. I would say they're not perfect, and depending on the Final Fantasy in question, like great. It's just those are games that you need to get on PC for mods.
Yes, the mods are so good, but like
like the mods legit make them fantastic versions of the game.
Yeah, but like if you're stuck with the Apple iOS font that they use in the game, it's not great.
It's
no, it really isn't.
It's one of those reasons where it's like, if it does come to Switch, I'm still not sure if I'm going to get them or not because it's like I'm going to be stuck with the font and it's like
the baffling thing is there's a better font in the game. It's the Japanese font, which is literally the same font used in like Final Fantasy 1 on PSP.
Yeah, it's the PSP English font.
And you can just rename some files around and get the Japanese font as your English font, and it works perfectly.
Which is like, there are no amount of foreheads I can slap.
But they had to use the iOS font. It's literally just like a thing that they had to do for the iOS version, because there's a restriction on what what fonts you can use when you put an app up on the App Store. And
like, I've heard this before, but can you, like, is there any way you can like go a little into that?
It's just dumb restrictions that the platform puts on the publisher, really. But like they don't want the other versions to be quote unquote superior, so they make them identical. So that means if one version is restricted in what fonts they can use, all the versions are restricted in what fonts they can use, and it's dumb and bad.
That is dumb.
And it is bad.
But fortunately, it's like the easiest modding job ever. So, yeah.
It's literally the first thing I did upon installing the games on my PC is just changing the 2 files required to make the text legible.
It literally is 2 files, yeah.
I really do wonder why Kratos can't just bust these things down because he's strong enough to.
I think the hitboxes on these saw blades are actually like a bit generous, because like I could swear I saw Kratos' shoulder clip through some of the saw blades just now.
Probably, yeah.
If only you had a crouch button, huh?
Well, you do, but it's not really helpful in this instance. Now here it
Are there stealth sequences in this game?
No.
I just mean like, if you could crouch, I think you could slip through the corner of that first one. But I don't know. Blade traps in games give me shivers, and it's all because of Prince of Persia. Thank you, Prince of Persia.
Prince of Persia made me detest floor spike traps because of the OG experience. Because I played the OG Prince of Persia on like an old Power Mac, back when the graphics were rotoscoped.
I never played the rotoscoped version, but I did play Prince of Persia Classic, which is like a 2.5D 1-to-1 remake. So, yeah, same. That game is brutal.
That game is, yeah, it's pretty damn brutal.
What happened to the remake of Sands of Time? I haven't heard anything about that in forever.
It's probably like going through slow development because, well, we're catching up to that point in time where all the slowdown in the games industry caused by the pandemic is going to start. We're going to start feeling that on the consumer side. It's a bit of a delayed response, but you know, that's what happens when every product takes 4 to 5 years to make. Ah, that smells good, doesn't it, Kratos? Smell the rot.
Very old alcohol. Yeah.
That just means it gets better with age.
Not all
That's fine,
alcohol
yeah.
gets better with age. Some of it does.
Also,
go
who made
bad.
this pot? No one can know my deep, dark secrets.
Is he gonna break it?
Is he?
Is he gonna look at the other side? Because the other side looks interesting. What are you doing?
Whoopsie doodle.
Enough distraction.
A true.
Excuse me.
For once, for once, Kratos is glad that Atreus is a fucking idiot.
The fuck was that over his head? Is that supposed to be like a helmet?
I think it was like a fancy hat or something.
It's a big old like headdress.
Also, it broke. It didn't break the one part that mattered. Kratos is so good at breaking things until the one time he needed to actually be good at breaking something.
Just got to step on it like he does like all the health and pickups.
Yeah. One stop this time, crush.
That's from a great desert land very far from here.
Yeah, we're never going to talk about Egypt.
Oh my,
No one
yes,
ever goes into the
many,
Egyptian pantheon.
Many gods.
The Egyptian pantheon is weird.
Not as simple as
Yeah, but
that,
it's like
I'm
95% Greek, 5% North, and then no one else.
Well, I mean, the Egyptian pantheon is weird in an inscrutable way. Like, it's not very clear about anything. There's a lot of variety in the myths.
I mean, if anything, that
based
gives you
on
more freedom.
regions,
If anything,
but-
that gives you more freedom to do what you want with it in like a game or something.
Well, yeah, and it's not like games haven't done that kind of thing. Like Tomb Raider did a bunch with it in Tomb Raider 3. But no, Tomb Raider 4, I think. The one where Lara Croft dies. Anyway, that entire game was Egypt. But It is interesting that Egypt does, like, Egyptian mythology does get overlooked a lot, though, because of the significance that Egypt has to our understanding of pretty much every other culture.
In a lot of ways, yeah. It's like I'm sure someone could find games that use it, but it's just one of those, like, no big game uses them.
I'm sorry, I just...
Well, no, I guess they were in, like, some Shin Megami Tensei stuff, because that has a lot to do with just, God and gods and stuff like that, but it's like, that's more of, like, a everyone's here sort of thing.
Like, Kratos just shield punched that guy and he flew across the room, and it was like, the most Gmod thing ever. As for Egypt, though, let me think. There was an Assassin's Creed game set in Egypt. Like the one right before Odyssey, I think.
Where has an Assassin's Creed been set in?
A surprising number of things, to be honest. I mean, they spent like 4 full games in Italy, so they kind of wasted a lot of time there that they could have spent on other places. They've only just gotten around to the Vikings, can you believe that? And there were also a couple games set in America. And one of them, at least, 1 or 2 of them were set in, like, I don't know.
Talk about the French one.
Yeah, well, there is the French one, but I was about to mention...
Poor French.
I was actually about to mention, like, the British one. At least I think it was British. Who keeps those flames lit, I wonder?
It's magic. Ooh. There we go.
Oh.
So what do you think Atreus is thinking now with his newfound powers?
He's probably trying to figure out what his powers even are.
Yeah, because at this point he just knows that he descends from godhood, but...
Yeah.
And I know he asked this question himself earlier. I was like, what exactly can I do?
Well, their answer to that was, like, every god is different, so there's no knowing.
When you become the age of 13, you shall become a full-blown jerk. Your jerkitude will be so vast, it might as well be a godlike power.
Man, this room really went all out in hiding those goddamn emblems, didn't it?
Well, I mean, we're later in the game, so it's normal, too.
Oh, they're not even, like, in the same room. They're, like, way back here. Great. Wonderful. This isn't a headache at all.
It's not that bad. It's just more of a... It's always hard to remember exactly where they are unless you're, like, really good at, doing a lot of run-throughs or something.
To be honest, I hate, like, scouring rooms for little tiny shiny objects. It's never fun.
Unless the item itself sparkles like a Resident Evil pickup.
Oh no, I don't even like that.
Really?
I always feel like I'm...
Well, what do you like?
I don't like mechanics that force me to, like, look around every wall and ceiling to find everything. So, like...
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if it were blinking like a Resident Evil item, you wouldn't have to scour every wall.
No, because, like, those blinking blinky lights are always so goddamn small. I always miss half of them.
Have you ever tried opening your eyes?
Well, it's because the blinking in Resident Evil happens, like, every couple of seconds, so instead of just looking around to see if anything catches your eye, you have to look slowly around and make sure you stare at every part of the screen for at least 3 seconds, just in case you miss the sparkle by virtue of bad timing. You can't just, like, give a glance around the room, you know?
Don't you enjoy it at all?
I would say it depends on the item, because most times items were not part of the perimeter background, obviously. They were just like 3-dimensional objects, and I think just by virtue of them being lower res than the background in question, they stuck out.
I'm talking about literally the sparkles that you shoot off a ceiling in Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, I'm saying, but I'm also talking about if you don't want to, like, look for the sparkle itself.
another trap for the.
You know, because I never needed the sparkles to find like gun ammunition.
Well, gun ammunition is different. That's a big red box. But like,
Or you
No, I
could-
mean like in the old games, like the magazine clips. Like I always had an easier time picking those out because they stuck out.
yeah.
Or you could just do what me and a lot of other people do, where everywhere you walk, you're just mashing the accept or pick up button as you just walk everywhere.
No, there's that, but
But I do that when I'm near a corpse because there might be some hidden handgun bullets in there.
like usually in that situation, you're like examining a cabinet or something, and that's something that you would naturally like want to check out. It's like a pot in an old RPG, you know? It's one of those things that's like, yeah, search this, dumbass. There's probably something inside one of these things. But I don't know. I mean, like in a full-range 3D game where you have full control of the camera, I don't like arbitrarily putting random knickknacks on the ceiling. It's just kind of like, oh, look how three-dimensional our game camera is, you know? I'd rather all of the hidden things be in places where a person would naturally think to look for a hidden thing. Not on the ceiling, not, like, in some corner that you have to shine your flashlight on. I'm looking at you, Revelations 2. Thank you. But, like, in an object that you would break open or check, or in some corner of the area that is designed to draw your attention and make you want to look closer.
Is there someplace else the winds can go?
I feel like just dumping things in any old place or throwing them in like obscure corners of whatever odd background element you have there. I don't know. Just if I wanted to play a find the object game, I'd pick up my mobile phone and download one, you know?
Get an old I Spy book.
Nah, I'm not even talking about that stuff. Like, they make those find the object games and sell them. They're extremely cheap and easy mobile games to make.
Look, there's the wind trap.
Maybe not as popular as color matching, but
Clever.
just as kind of effortless. Alright, look, you don't want to slide down a chain like that. You're going to tear your hands off. Just saying.
No, not if they're like really grizzled though. They're fine. Then the chain has to worry about catching on fire.
Probably.
Sorry, I got distracted.
Whoop.
By what? The fucking fire? Okay, yeah, the fire ring is pretty
It's pretty neat.
hypnotizing. Yeah.
Kind of is, yeah.